Welcome to episode 22 of the Formidable Genealogist Studio, and I am back here with friend and colleague Marian Pierre-Louis, who is also the Northeast House historian. Now, Marian, can you show us your website for people that want to learn more or reach out to you?
I can. Let's see. Can you see it there? Do you see my
Yes,
website?
now
Okay,
I see it.
so this is my website, and it's northeasthousehistorian.com, and it shows you recent articles. This is my house history talk schedule for 2026, which is a
Oh,
little
cool. Wow.
insane. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And this is just Massachusetts. And then there's articles. So there's a lot of articles. There's a getting started section, some
Oh,
popular
awesome.
articles with including a deed chart, um, lots of different stuff here.
And I know some of your talks are out on YouTube, so I will try to include a few of those too, so people can learn more about your vast amount of knowledge.
Yeah, and if they happen to be in the Northeast, they can go to the appearances thing and see my schedule if they want to come to
Hmm.
one of the talks in person. There's
Yeah.
typically isn't a charge for the talks
Oh, awesome.
at libraries. They're usually at libraries or historical societies.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm really excited about this topic. Marion suggested this one, and I really want to know more about this because it's actually part of my own family's line as well. We're going to talk about Sears houses. Now, I want to show you. This is the Sears house that my great grandfather, Louis McFarlane, ordered and had delivered to Lake Andes, South Dakota, when there was not a lot
Oh,
going on out there. And this is about 1910. My grandpa's the taller boy there, and he was born in 1904. And I want to show you one other thing here because somebody actually shared with me the plans for that house. Let's see. So this is what the house looks like today. I may have trespassed a little and took this photo, but but then here is the original ad for it. So in the floor
nice.
plan. And it's just so fascinating and I cannot wait to learn more about this. So, Marian, where do you want to get started on this? What's the deal with these Sears houses? What's some background?
Well, so it's really interesting. Most people are shocked when they hear that Sears sold houses. But if you think about it, it really makes a lot of sense because back in the day, say let's say 1900, the Sears catalog was preeminent. Everybody looked forward to getting the Sears catalog. People bought a lot of stuff from the Sears catalog. It was really the handbook for anything that you needed to get. So, since they already had that market share with the catalog, it made sense naturally. Why not offer houses? So, Sears started selling houses in 1908. So, that means your ancestor, was it your grandfather, had a
Great grandfather.
great grandfather had a really early Sears house. So, he jumped on board
Yeah.
quickly because they only started in 1908.
Okay.
So, he had 1910, is what you said. And
Hmm.
then, but
I'm
there was
guessing.
a lot of trust because people trusted the Sears catalog. They trusted the brand name, so they're going to trust the process. And so, Sears houses were sold between 1908 and 1942.
Oh,
And so they're called Sears houses by mail because they're coming through the catalog. So you're receiving the catalog in the mail. The houses aren't actually coming by mail.
hmm.
Unless you want to consider the railway part of the postal system, and maybe it was.
Yeah.
But the houses were delivered by train. So one way that you know if you had a Sears house, this is kind of the first litmus test, is you had your house had to be near a railway. So that's one thing to check for, like your great grandfather's house. He must have had a railway nearby because they're not going to deliver a house and then they're not going to travel 40 miles with all the stuff because it's 30,000 pieces
Oh, wow.
build the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so everything was included. So all the wood was included, the roofing tiles, all the trim, the paint, everything was included, 30,000 pieces to build a house. And then they would be put together, and the houses could be put together either by the homeowner or by a contractor. So both ways
Mhm.
were done. And it could take 8 to 12 weeks to build a house. And there were lots of different styles of houses. So, they had their modern homes catalog, and
Mhm.
they across all the years they had 370 different models. Now,
Oh, wow.
some were more popular than others, and became, brand names. But so you can access these catalogs like on Internet Archive. I have books. I didn't grab them. I forgot to grab them.
Oh, yeah.
I have a couple Sears books um, that show like the catalog of the houses and things like that. And
Hmm.
yeah, so it's just a really fascinating thing. Just the concept that Sears sold houses, that there could be houses in your community that were Sears houses, is just really interesting.
Yeah. My great grandfather had a little bit of the railroad that just went across the
Mhm.
back of his property.
Oh,
So I would assume in that time period, the train probably would have just kind of stopped there rather than the nearest depot.
I
Because
don't
he was
know.
a ways from the nearest depot. I
Now,
don't
I
know.
don't know that for sure, but that would
Yeah.
make the most logical sense for everybody logistically,
Yeah.
to get the stuff off of the train. Yeah. Um,
What
yeah.
kind of customization existed, if any? Like, could they choose the various paint colors, or was it kind of just standardized for simplicity?
Oh, no,
Any
I think
idea?
that's a really good question. I don't actually know. I think there was some customization that they could make. It was probably pretty limited. But I do see houses, and you look at the model from the catalog, and then the house is a little different. So I think there were slightly different variations that you could get, um,
Okay.
and that you would have to choose that ahead of time. Um,
Mhm.
and so with the paint, you would probably just choose the color, and then they would just send that to you. So there were probably limited options, but not
Mhm.
um, too many. So there were 70 to they estimate there were 70 to 75,000 Sears houses built.
Wow.
Yeah, and
I would
now
love to know how many survive.
there's only like less than 20% of them.
Okay.
Um, and so not everybody in the United States is going to be able to find a Sears house. So Ohio, Illinois, Pennsylvania, those were three of the primary states for Sears houses. The West does not have Sears houses, so Washington, Oregon, out there, there was a different company that existed over there that made. So that's another thing. Sears was not the only company that had houses that you could, purchase from a catalog.
Hmm.
So there were other companies. Sears just happened to be one of the best and most well-known brands.
Hmm.
So for the far west, there was another company that really serviced that area. But there are um, houses all over. Like there's houses in New England. They're all over. And you said what, South Dakota for your
Yeah.
grandfather? Yeah, Alabama, I think is as far south as they go. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so you can find them, and there are a lot of websites where there's a lot of people who have done research on, and they like to track down Sears houses.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there are websites, kind of reflecting, and a lot of them tend to be like state specific or place specific, where somebody might be living.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, it's pretty interesting that they had this system. And oh, so let me tell you a little bit about the parts and how this was put together.
Yeah.
So you get these 30,000 parts, and you imagine that would be, so you've got this book, So you got a manual to put it together, and it was actually your name was embossed and put on the front of the manual. Yeah,
Really?
yeah. And the parts were all numbered. And some of the parts would have like little tags on them. So that's one of the ways that people say, oh, like trim and small details like that in your house would have like a little paper, saying that it was from Sears. And so people often say that's one way you can find out if you have a Sears house is if it's got that little tag on the back of those smaller pieces like the trim. But another aspect is you want to look for the numbering. So if you go to the
Mm.
attic or you go to the basement, you may see, where the original wood and stuff is exposed, you may see the numbers on that. So that's another way to find out if it's really a Sears house. And then the other way is to look at these catalogs or look at the images that you find online. They're in more than just the catalogs. Like you can find images on Flickr. There's lots of
Mm.
different places where you can find images of the Sears catalogs, and you find the model that looks the most like yours. And that's kind of your starting point. Because if you can't find a model that looks like your house, then it's probably not a Sears house.
Hmm. Did you have a couple websites that you wanted to show too for
I
where people
do.
might be able to find more information about this?
Yep. Let me. Yeah, there's a lot of, so there are books and
Hmm.
there are websites. There's a lot of information. And so are you seeing that now?
Yes.
All right. So this is
Ah.
www.sears-homes.com. So this is called Sears Homes of Chicagoland.
Hmm.
And so here's number 52. That's the model they're referring to. And so,
Hmm.
so there's the house, and then there is the uh, the model. So it's got
Wow.
the image, and then it's got the floor plans, and then so it's 1,000 oh well, almost $2,000.
Yeah.
And
Have
right here,
you put that into like a currency calculator to figure out about what that would be worth now?
I haven't, no.
No, I'm
I don't
curious.
really like uh currency calculators because they don't really reflect like the inflation. So like you could see that somebody bought a house for like 2,000 bucks back in the day, and and in today's currency that would be like maybe I don't know, I'm just guessing like $20,000 or something like that, but it doesn't
Yeah,
really relate to the actual reality of purchasing houses today.
true.
So I think you can only go so far with those currency counts. So they may be accurate, but they don't really reflect our current economic times.
Yep. True. Very true.
But so you have this Sears number house, and then like you can click here, and it goes to this catalog. So it's going to Internet Archive,
Oh,
and there,
awesome.
there it is there. And and this is one of those actual catalogs. If you keep so there's more detail. Oh, so there you go. There's answering your question. So here we
Hmm.
have variations. Um,
Oh, cool.
so these are doors here, 3 doors. Oklahoma
Huh.
houses. And then here's the next model.
Hmm.
And it's just so cool to see that. So that Sears homes.com is, so it's one website you can go to. And so these people go and they find Sears houses, and then they look at all the details and stuff, and it's really fun.
Yeah. And I recommend too, if people find something like this, that still survives to this day and has an address, I would check real estate websites to see if somebody has, even though the house hasn't been for sale recently, if somebody has interior photos, because I often find those as well from.
Yeah,
Something that sold like 15 years ago, but still has the interior photos up.
absolutely. Yeah, as a house historian, that's like one of the first things I do because I can usually find photos online. And then another website is identifying Sears homes. Well, this is, I think, the individual blog post. This one is searshomes.org with no
Hmm.
hyphen. And so in this particular blog post is identifying Sears homes. So, and this person saying,
Oh,
number
awesome.
one question I'm asked over and over and over again. So look for the stamped lumber, look for the shipping labels, um, check for the house design, look in the attic and basement for original paperwork, um, and then courthouse records. So Sears offered mortgages with their homes, and they were actually pioneers in the whole mortgage industry.
Hmm.
And so they sort of modernized because originally mortgages were done person to person. So you would go to another individual person, they would give you a mortgage. Um, and so they really organized it in the modern sense.
Hmm.
Let's see. Here they're saying hardware fixtures and a little SR cast into a bathtub, something like that. Um, so there's all these little different details, and they're books because I have several books on Sears houses as well. Some are catalogs and some are talking about Sears houses themselves. And it's just the most fun thing to
Hmm.
learn about these houses and then try to find them in your community. There are websites that will tell you, like I found one that listed them for Massachusetts, and I was able to see a full list of Massachusetts. And so what they're doing is they're like going to the deeds, looking for Sears as the mortgager selling the house, and then they're using Google Street View to get a look at the house, and they can take a screen capture, or whatever, and then they compare that against the original model, which I think
Hmm.
is pretty fun. Yeah.
Most of what we've seen here are like really huge homes. A lot of these are. What was the thought at the time of these homes? Was it considered like a sign of wealth if you were able to get one of these homes, or what did the general population think of when they saw a Sears home?
No, there was a wide range of houses. So the price ranged from $146 for a very simple house to $10,000 for like the biggest house. So that would be a very prominent
Yeah.
house back in
Yeah.
the day. Um, there was let's see, there was a company, Standard Oil, and they actually purchased 156 Sears kits for their workers. So that's like the highest concentration of Sears houses in one location because they bought 156 houses and built them as worker houses.
Hmm.
Um, so that's not like a big, that you wouldn't imagine that those would be big fancy houses. Those would be much smaller, more modest houses. So it really
Yeah.
just depends. And then they had different ones for the South and the North. And there are ones that are more considered like for summer cottages, that kind of thing. Um, so it just really depends. And I think that they develop new models each year because, they came out with the Sears catalog every year. And,
Mhm.
like anything with marketing, they're trying to offer new styles. Um, so, so I think they just tweaked it a little bit and offered different things for different,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, it's really
And
interesting.
you said they stopped in 1942.
Yeah, 1942.
Do you know any of the reasoning for why they discontinued it?
Yes. There were two main reasons. The first reason was the Great Depression. They lost $11 million in defaulted mortgages.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so that was just crazy. So that really kind of put them under. But then when World War II started, they had supply issues because of the
Mm.
war. And so
Mhm.
that's really what did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
it's too bad because that could have kept going for a really long time.
I know.
They had kind of seen those two, if they had anticipated that kind of issue coming up. Yeah.
Hmm. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for telling us more about Sears Homes here. Um, I really appreciate that you were willing to come on here and talk about house histories because this is
Sure.
something that I've wanted to learn more about for a long time. But like we talked about in a previous episode, from the genealogy aspect, you kind of just skip past it. So this
Mhm.
will give me some more ideas for how to pause and actually learn more about the place my ancestor was living rather than just the ancestor. So
Yeah,
thanks so
and
much.
just as a final thought,
Yeah.
most people think, especially with older houses, that maybe the original owner built the house. And this
Hmm.
kind of changed that concept. This is a company building the house. I mean, a human is putting it all together, but
Yeah.
this is a company that's now creating a house and you can get it like across the country. So it's a different concept than just that local builder. So this is really at a time when, subdivisions are starting to become a thing.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.